let's give him a chance. Let's give him a chance with the play calling. You know you have an offensive line that isn't playing that well. So what do? Why not just play the short game so he can get the ball out of his hands very fast to run a competent goddamn offense? Outside of that, Shedeur has to be better in understanding that the offensive line that you're working with right now is not adequate.
The NFL has just detonated the kind of bombshell you'd only expect from a Hollywood script, but this is terrifyingly real life, because the CEO himself reportedly stormed into a meeting and directly confronted the Browns owner, delivering what amounted to a practical demand: put Shedeur Sanders on the field. Yes, you read that absolutely correctly. Forget the traditional chain of command. Forget carefully constructed depth charts. This is a descent into pure unadulterated chaos with a dramatic high-stakes front office twist. And trust me on this, when the worlds of billionaire egos and professional football collide with this much force, the resulting drama hits with more bone-jarring impact than any linebacker could ever deliver on a Sunday.
How do you feel about that? Do you feel like you belong here on this team?
Obviously, I think overall as a player, I feel like I put in the work. I feel like everything I do, I try to do it to my best, and that's all I ask for. So I feel like everybody feels like they should be on the team. And if you ask anybody on the team, would they feel like they belong? They belong, in their own eyes. So I feel like I do, but I'm my own player. I think about myself in a high regard, of course. So it's not my decision.
The Cleveland Browns have perfected the art of being that one kid in gym class who perpetually trips over their own untied shoelaces. Every single year, the team possesses an uncanny knack for face-planting in the most spectacular fashion, precisely at the moment when people start believing they might actually be capable of running in a straight line. It's a tragicomedy that's almost impressive at this point, a legacy built on over 2 decades of rotating quarterbacks so frequently it resembles a never-ending open-call audition for America's next top interception thrower.
Said they're not conspiring to sabotage somebody who, by the way, would be great for the league. And he is great for the league because the league wants eyeballs on it. There is no reason they would be trying to conspire against him and sabotage him. He all goes on to say, I think he has a higher ceiling. He's a great playmaker. He was tremendously accurate. He has the feel when he's in the game and how to make the big plays. But just because you have the ceiling that's really high and the potential to be able to do that doesn't mean you could do that right now.
So when the explosive report finally leaked that the NFL CEO had supposedly marched directly into the Browns' executive offices and basically laid down the law to the owner, effectively saying, yeah, you're playing Shedeur Sanders. End of discussion. The news didn't feel shocking in the slightest. In fact, it felt disturbingly inevitable. Because let's be honest, if any franchise in professional sports has earned the need for a direct intervention from the league's highest authority, it's the very one that once looked at Johnny Manziel and genuinely saw the future.
Somebody said it yesterday, Bull, and I'm surprised you didn't double down on this. I loved it. I was at home. I couldn't really speak like I want to, but you said, hey, if I'm the Browns, you take Travis Hunter. And guess what? If Shedeur Sanders falls below a certain position, you trade back up and you go take him too. I'll take both of them.
Yeah,
I mean, people say it's far-fetched, but if you're the Cleveland Browns, I mean, you've already said it's going to take a couple of years to get this thing back up and moving. My thing is, I want to get super uber.
Think about it from a purely business perspective. The NFL is a meticulously polished, multi-billion-dollar brand, and the Cleveland Browns are its one struggling franchise location that consistently torpedoes the company's Yelp reviews. Sure, the league practically prints money, but there's a limit to how much soul-crushing footage of the sad dog pound the national audience can endure before it stops feeling like football and starts feeling like outright bullying. Enter Shedeur Sanders, the league's shiny golden ticket, the one player who just might possess enough star power to drag the Cleveland franchise, kicking and screaming, into a new era of relevance.
Joe Thomas. I love Joe T. And I know that Joe T is in Cleveland. He's out there. He's amongst the people. So he knows the pulse a little bit. And for me, I think it's more of the managers, the general manager, the owners and things trying to just chill the noise. They understand that they have Shedeur. They're just really trying to start Joe Flacco right now because he's just a consecutive vet. You know what you're going to get.
And let's be brutally honest here. If the NFL could script a storyline straight out of Hollywood, Shedeur Sanders is it. He's not just a quarterback. He is the living, breathing sequel to Deion Sanders, the epicenter of a hype storm so massive that college football broadcasts literally turned into extended Colorado Buffaloes commercials. He is charisma, raw confidence, and a viral highlight reel all rolled into one. Now contrast that with the Browns' usual quarterback offerings, a parade of guys who barely last longer than a TikTok trend, and you can practically see why the CEO would be sweating through his designer suit, all but begging the owner to put Shedeur in the game. The truly hilarious part? You can just picture the Browns owner sitting there indignantly thinking, "Excuse me, last I checked, I own this team." To which the NFL CEO basically replied, "That's adorable, but the ratings own you, and right now, Shedeur is the storyline." Just imagine the scene, a sterile boardroom, billionaires sipping on overpriced bottled water, and in struts the CEO, his eyes blazing with the intensity of someone who just binge-watched Jerry Springer reruns for strategic inspiration. He slams down a metaphorical playbook and declares, "Enough is enough. America doesn't want another pathetic Browns flop. They want Shedeur." At this point, you almost expect Vince McMahon's No Chance in Hell entrance music to start blaring through the boardroom speakers. And honestly, the CEO isn't wrong. The Browns have exhausted every other option. They've drafted quarterbacks, traded for quarterbacks, wildly overpaid quarterbacks, and yet they still somehow end up right back at square one. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders possesses that rare chosen one energy, the kind of magnetic presence that makes network executives absolutely salivate.
You know, Shedeur, we talk oftentimes about quarterback being the most important position in the sport. We obviously spent a lot of time with Shedeur throughout the process. He's highly accurate, can play well from the pocket, very productive college career. And, we felt like it wasn't necessarily the plan going into the weekend to select two quarterbacks, but as we talk about, we do believe in best player available. We do believe in positional value, and we didn't necessarily expect him to be available in the fifth round, and so we love at
ESPN. Let's be perfectly clear. ESPN couldn't care less about the Cleveland Browns offensive line. What they care about are the inevitable money shot camera pans to Deion Sanders in the VIP box, sunglasses on, smirking with the quiet confidence of a man who wrote the script and already knows the ending. But let's not delude ourselves into thinking this is just about football. Oh no, this is about the cold hard currency of business, the relentless pursuit of ratings, and the desperate need for the NFL to look like it's always ahead of the curve. Because if the Browns somehow bungle Shedeur's debut while every other team is desperately trying to trend on TikTok, that's not just bad football, it's a catastrophic marketing failure. So when the CEO cornered the Browns owner, the conversation wasn't about X's and O's. It was about the grilling he'd get from shareholders, TV networks, and advertisers who know that Shedeur Sanders means clicks, views, and jerseys flying off the shelves. Forget strategy, this is unadulterated capitalism in cleats, and the poor, eternally suffering Browns fans, they're just collateral damage, trapped in the crossfire once again. So the idea of the NFL CEO barging in to force Shedeur Sanders into the lineup, that just feels like a completely normal Tuesday in Cleveland. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback, he is a full-blown walking, talking marketing campaign, cleverly disguised as a professional athlete. The man doesn't just walk into games, he makes an entrance, striding in as if he's the star of a live-action GQ cover shoot. Gold chains, luxury cars, designer shades. He exudes so much modern swagger that he makes the legendary Broadway Joe Namath look like he exclusively shopped at the Kmart clearance bin.
The league decided it didn't like how Shedeur interviewed. He said some things he should not have said, and he will tell you that to this day. I got a little carried away. But he's as tough a kid, tough a quarterback as I've ever seen. His arm is at least as good as Brady's. It's Brady-esque.
You guys act like a fifth-round pick is a punishment.
Okay.
It's not. It's an opportunity. I've never seen anybody talk this much about a fifth-round pick, ever.
Because he's not a real fifth-round pick. That show you right there. I wish we could have the owners here and, get them real liquored up. I might spill the beans. But I'm telling
And the NFL, because here's the unvarnished truth. The league is no longer in the market for another soulless, faceless game manager who methodically throws for 175 yards and a single, uninspired touchdown every Sunday. That is tragically boring. That's Cincinnati in the 1990s. The modern NFL craves drama, it demands flash, and it needs a quarterback who is already trending on Twitter before he even takes his first official snap. And Shedeur, he was practically engineered in a laboratory specifically for this moment. He has the unimpeachable family legacy, he has the unteachable swagger, and he possesses the rare ability to post a single Instagram story and unleash a firestorm of breaking news across every sports outlet. When was the last time the city of Cleveland had a player like that? The answer is never. The absolute closest they ever came was Baker Mayfield filming progressive commercials while he was still trying to figure out how to consistently complete a basic slant route. And then, of course, there's Deion, Coach Prime himself. The NFL knows full well that wherever Shedeur goes, the massive cultural gravity of Deion goes with him. This is precisely why the NFL CEO supposedly went nuclear. Because in his mind, this isn't about Shedeur learning a complex playbook or fitting into an existing system. It is about him being the system. Forget development. Forget growing pains. Just throw him on the field and let the ratings flood in. The kid could literally fumble every single snap, and ESPN would still be running dramatically scored highlight reels with slow motion replays, treating him as if he just single-handedly cured the sport of football itself.
Sanders strained an oblique throwing Wednesday morning, according to the team, and was held out of first day of joint practices with the Eagles. Sanders is considered day-to-day, won't practice today, and likely to play in the preseason game versus the Eagles Saturday. His injury is the latest in a string of ailments that have impacted the Browns quarterback room. S.A., I'll start with you. What does this injury mean for Shedeur?
Well, to me, it's a setback. Just my personal opinion, not a negative against him in any way, but I thought the momentum from his performance against the Carolina Panthers was something that he was going to be able to ride, even when he was still left as number 4 on the depth.
But here's where the situation graduates from merely chaotic to truly hysterical. The Browns owner isn't exactly a pushover. Billionaires universally hate being told what to do, especially by other equally powerful billionaires. It's like telling a cat where to sit. They are absolutely going to do the exact opposite purely out of spite. So you have this beautifully dysfunctional scenario where the CEO is practically screaming, "Put in Shedeur." The fans and the ratings demand it, while the owner is likely muttering under his breath, "Not if it makes you happy." And you know who is loving every single second of this public meltdown? The networks. Fox, ESPN, CBS, they are all circling this story like salivating vultures. Because a high-stakes power struggle between the NFL CEO and a defiant Browns owner isn't just football. It's premium reality television with shoulder pads. You can practically hear the documentary trailers being pitched in real time, from chaos to kickoff. The battle for Shedeur. Meanwhile, the Browns' current quarterbacks are probably pacing nervously in the locker room, frantically Googling how to politely request a trade without getting blacklisted. Imagine showing up to practice only to realize the entire league itself doesn't want you there, like your own boss invited the CEO to your desk just to publicly declare you irrelevant. That's absolutely brutal, but the NFL doesn't have time for that kind of nuance.
Browns is the Browns. This is the most hype they've ever had. Like, it's the Browns.
Exactly.
So, he got drafted to the wrong team. That Sanders name, I'm telling you right now, there's only one person that understands business, and he will trade his quarterback for Sanders. Dallas is where Sanders is going to be.
Wow.
Because that name on the back of that jersey is legacy, and he's going to want that to ring bells around the globe. Jerry is going to have him.
You just proved.
They see Shedeur Sanders as a walking, talking gold mine, and they are not about to let something as quaint and inconvenient as team autonomy get in the way of profits. Let's not forget, this is the very same league that once tried to ban touchdown celebrations because they were deemed too fun. Do you really think for 1 second they would hesitate to strong-arm a perpetually struggling franchise if it meant a guaranteed skyrocketing ratings bonanza? Please. The irony is almost deliciously perfect, though. The Cleveland Browns, the one franchise legendary for messing things up all on their own, now have the NFL CEO stepping in as if he's declaring, "You are so breathtakingly bad at this that I have to personally micromanage your incompetence." It's the corporate equivalent of your boss suddenly deciding you aren't even capable of stapling papers correctly and physically taking over your entire desk. It's profoundly humiliating, yes, but also hilariously on brand for Cleveland. So now we've got this perfect chaotic storm, Shedeur Sanders, with a hype train bigger than a Marvel movie premiere, the NFL CEO desperate to turn Cleveland into must-see primetime television, and an owner who probably wants to crawl under his desk every single time his phone buzzes. You can just picture the Browns owner sitting there, smug and stubborn, sipping on a glass of something that probably costs more than most people's mortgages. And then in storms the NFL CEO, red-faced and moving with the predatory energy of someone who just binge-watched Shark Tank for inspiration. The message is brutally clear. The NFL doesn't just want Shedeur on the field. They absolutely need him there.
Speculating as to why that is. What a Kenny Pickett, what a Dylan Gabriel, both hampered, right? Joe Flacco was a given. We understand where he's at this point in time in his career and what he means to the Browns. He's their security blanket who would probably start at the start of the season because he's your QB1 for the moment. But we looked at Shedeur Sanders, and then I'm thinking about, okay, you got joint practices with the Eagles, and then you got a game this Saturday night against the Eagles. And if you're going up against the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, whether it's against a second or a third unit, but you look as good, if not better, than you did against the Carolina Panthers last weekend, that would be something that would really, really be good for him. The fact that he's now hurt and he's not going to be able to play in all likelihood this weekend, to me, is a setback in that regard. Again, not a negative, fellas. It's just that I thought momentum was in his favor coming into this weekend, and now that has been derailed.
And the Browns... Oh, he's absolutely not having it. Billionaires don't take orders, they sign them. He probably leans back in his leather throne, adjusts his cufflinks, and delivers a line so dripping with smug entitlement it could curdle milk. I bought this team so I could have the pleasure of ruining it my way. The CEO, meanwhile, is pacing the length of the boardroom like a deeply frustrated dad trapped at a Chuck E. Cheese birthday party, muttering furiously about ratings, sponsors, and how Shedeur is the undisputed key to conquering the TikTok generation. You half expect him to whip out a full presentation, complete with pie charts and graphs, meticulously detailing how Shedeur's Instagram engagement rate is currently higher than the Browns' entire offensive output. Imagine a single desperate PowerPoint slide projected onto the wall, its only content being the bold capitalized words, "This kid prints money." Meanwhile, the owner is likely just doodling yachts on a cocktail napkin, feigning the bare minimum of interest. The Browns owner, naturally, just digs his heels in deeper. But here's the real kicker. While these two titans are locked in their boardroom battle, Shedeur is probably somewhere else entirely, chilling with his immaculate jewelry collection, and posting cryptic tweets that instantly send the entire sports media apparatus into a full-blown frenzy. He doesn't even have to be in the room. The sheer force of his hype is doing all the heavy lifting for him, and then inevitably, the fans catch wind of the rumors. Twitter instantly explodes with memes of the Browns logo wearing designer sunglasses. TikTok is flooded with slick edits of Shedeur's highlights set to dramatic music, and thousands of Facebook posts from exasperated Cleveland uncles start with the familiar refrain, "This kid better save us, or I'm moving to Cincinnati." Suddenly, this private boardroom brawl is no longer an internal fight. It has officially become a full-blown national spectacle.
They're setting Shedeur up to fail.
We go!
Check it out. Yesterday, it was announced that Shedeur Sanders will be the starter versus the Carolina Panthers Friday night. But people have a theory that they're really setting him up to fail. And this all started when Louis Riddick said this a couple days ago.
I'm afraid he's going to get on the field in preseason games without a lot of practice reps. And then they're going to ask him to perform these heroic tasks in order to prove that he's worthy of being a starter when he hasn't had enough reps to really get comfortable. That's the kind of battle he's dealing with right now. I know. I've seen it. Dom, you've seen it. We've been in these camps. We know how that goes.
You'd think the NFL would try to keep a bombshell of this magnitude under wraps, but come on. Leaks from the Browns organization happen faster than they blow fourth quarter leads. By the time the confrontational meeting even wrapped up, every sports talk show in the nation was already screaming about it. Instantaneous, furious debates erupted everywhere. Should the NFL wield this kind of authoritarian power? Is it even remotely fair to force-feed a rookie quarterback into such an intense, dysfunctional spotlight? And most importantly, will this actually, finally, make the Browns fun to watch for once? The most hysterical part of it all? For all the high-stakes drama, nobody actually knows if Shedeur Sanders can even survive a full game behind Cleveland's offensive line without being folded in half like a cheap lawn chair. But that's not the point. The point is pure, unadulterated spectacle, and the NFL CEO knows it. Cleveland might not win games, but they will absolutely win the headlines. And in this league, sometimes that's the only currency that truly matters. The moment the word officially leaked that the NFL CEO had supposedly cornered the Browns owner and demanded Shedeur Sanders take the field, the entire football world simply detonated. Forget mundane game highlights or routine injury reports. This became the story. Sports shows that normally spend half their airtime arguing about chicken wing flavors suddenly had panels of analysts screaming about league interference as if it were Watergate with helmets. The other, more jaded half of the football world simply rolled their eyes, muttering that they'd seen this exact movie play out far too many times, and the ending always involved profound heartbreak and cold beers in a desolate parking lot. The reaction outside Cleveland was just as wild and far more vicious. Fans of rival teams mercilessly mocked the Browns, roasting them for being so fundamentally incompetent that the league's CEO had to personally step in and babysit their franchise.
But I'm going to answer this question by saying Shedeur Sanders. And I'm going to tell you why. I think he's being set up to fail. That's right, I'm going to say it.
Okay.
Here we are on national television, right? There's been 11 practices, if I remember correct. He's been starting against he's been playing against the third unit. He's fourth on the depth chart. And then suddenly you throw him into the start lineup and he hasn't had any rep with the first team at all. Think about that. So you're just going to throw him to the wolves like that, huh? I mean, you know, if he had first team snaps in practice, I don't say that. But he doesn't. And then all of a sudden he's starting tomorrow night. It's like you want him to fail. I'm not accusing the coaches of doing this. I'm not accusing the GM of doing this. But that owner, Mr. Haslam, that's a different animal right there.
And the locker room? Oh boy, that place didn't just turn into a soap opera. It exploded into one overnight. Just imagine being the incumbent starting quarterback, the guy who has been grinding through the brutal heat of training camp, meticulously memorizing every single play, only to scroll through your phone and see national headlines declaring that the league itself wants you benched for a rookie who has yet to take a single snap on a professional NFL field. That's not motivation. That is weaponized humiliation with cleats on. You know for a fact those poor guys were staring daggers across the practice field, probably secretly Googling how to become a free agent mid-season between drills. But here is the truly cynical kicker in all of this. The controversy didn't hurt the NFL in the slightest. In fact, it has supercharged it. Ratings projections didn't just climb, they skyrocketed into the stratosphere. Merchandise sales for Shedeur-themed Browns gear reportedly spiked before he even officially put on a helmet. And isn't that the entire point? The NFL figured out a long time ago that it's not merely selling a sport, it is selling reality television with shoulder pads. Every single season requires its own cast of villains, heroes, redemption arcs, and of course a juicy scandal. The Patriots gave us Deflategate. The Raiders delivered Antonio Brown's helmet meltdown, and now the Browns have gifted the world a storyline where the CEO swoops in like a corporate Batman, demanding they play the Golden Boy. It is absolutely ridiculous. It is completely over the top, and it is precisely what keeps fans glued to their screens. Because let's be brutally honest, people don't just want football anymore. They crave drama. They demand stories. They want to laugh, to argue, and to feel like they are watching something monumentally bigger than a simple game. And Shedeur Sanders, with all his hype, his swagger, and his celebrity baggage, delivers exactly that in spades.
Now, after Louis Riddick said that, just yesterday it was announced that Shedeur Sanders will be the starter versus the Carolina Panthers, but people still was wondering, is this a legit shot or is some fishy going on? Well, today, Browns insider Mary Kay Cabot tweeted this out. Browns Kevin Stefanski said, by any large, we're going to rest our starters Friday night versus the Panthers. Shedeur will work with some 2s and 3s versus the Panthers starters.
Damn.
Now, you had the Louis Riddick clip with somebody who's very well respected in NFL. Now you have a Browns insider saying, look, Shedeur isn't even going to play in the game with the...
Of course, this entire spectacle raises a much bigger and frankly far scarier question. Just how much control does the league actually have over its teams? If the CEO can allegedly pressure a team into starting one specific player, what is the logical next step? Will the NFL begin assigning quarterbacks to franchises like it's a high-stakes fantasy football league? Will they eventually start scripting entire endings like the WWE? Imagine Roger Goodell at a podium announcing, for the good of the brand, this year the Browns will win the Super Bowl for ratings purposes. At this point in the NFL's evolution, would a single person even be genuinely shocked? And the Cleveland Browns? They are left, as always, right where they perpetually reside, trapped in a purgatory between sheer desperation and outright delusion. A franchise so tragically and hilariously cursed that their only viable path back to relevance might actually involve a corporate executive barging into their offices and forcibly taking the wheel. It is tragic. It is comedic, and it is without a doubt the most quintessentially Cleveland thing imaginable, because at the end of the day, the NFL doesn't actually need the Browns to win championships. It just needs them to matter. And thanks to Shedeur Sanders, an unstoppable hype machine, and a CEO with absolutely zero chill, they finally do.